A Study in Scarlet, 1887. Episode 6. The Utah Story, 20 Years of Pain. Welcome back, Detective. Last episode, you witnessed Jefferson Hope's final moments and learned the terrible truth about his 20-year quest for revenge. But now, as Holmes examines Hope's belongings, you're about to discover the full story that drove a good man to become a killer. Picture this. It's the morning after Hope's death. You're in Holmes's sitting room at 221B, where various items from Hope's possession are spread across the table like pieces of a tragic puzzle. A worn leather journal, faded photographs, and letters tied with a blue ribbon. Holmes opens the journal carefully. Watson, detective friend, this tells the complete story. Hope kept a meticulous record of his hunt. But more importantly, it reveals what really happened in Utah 20 years ago. What do you expect to find in a man's journal after 2 decades of pursuit? Love letters? Maps? Plans for murder? Listen to this entry, dated 1860. Holmes begins reading. Today I met the most beautiful woman in all of Utah Territory, Sarah Ferrier, 18 years old, with eyes like mountain lakes and a laugh that could make flowers bloom in the desert. The transformation is remarkable, isn't it, Detective? This journal reveals Hope not as a cold killer, but as a young man desperately in love. Holmes continues reading. Sarah and I plan to marry in the spring. Her father, John Ferrier, has given his blessing. We'll build a cabin near the mountains, raise children, live simply and honestly. I've never been happier. Watson leans forward. It sounds like paradise. What went wrong? Holmes turns several pages, his expression darkening. Here's where the nightmare begins. Elder Drebber came to the Ferrier house today with Stangerson. They claim Sarah is promised to Drebber by divine revelation. They say God has chosen her to be his 4th wife. 4th wife? What does this tell you about the power structure in this Mormon settlement, Detective? How would a young woman have any choice against religious authority? 4th wife. Holmes reads Hope's anguished words. Sarah turned pale as snow when they announced this. Her father tried to protest, but Drebber silenced him with talk of divine will and community unity. They gave us 1 week to accept God's commandment. Holmes picks up one of the faded photographs. It shows a young woman with exactly the kind eyes and gentle smile you'd expect from Hope's description. But there's something else. A shadow of sadness even in this happy moment. Look at this photograph, Detective. What do you see in Sarah's expression? Even in joy, there's vulnerability there. She knew the world she lived in, didn't she? Holmes returns to the journal. Hope's next entry is written in a different hand, rushed, desperate. We tried to escape tonight. Sarah, her father, and I. We made it 20 miles into the desert before Drebber's men caught us. They shot John Ferrier dead and dragged us back. Said he died resisting God's will. The horror of it strikes you. A young couple's desperate flight through the desert, pursued by men claiming divine authority. Can you imagine the terror? The wedding ceremony was a mockery. Holmes continues reading. They dressed Sarah in white lace and forced her to repeat vows to a man old enough to be her grandfather. I was chained in the settlement jail, forced to watch through the window. She looked at me once during the ceremony. Just once. I'll never forget that look as long as I live. What do you think that look conveyed, Detective? Despair? A plea for help? Or perhaps something else entirely? Holmes's voice grows quieter as he reads the most painful entry. Sarah lasted 3 months as Drebber's wife. 3 months of daily humiliation, of being treated as property, of watching her spirit slowly break. Yesterday, they found her body in Drebber's garden. The official cause, sudden illness. But I know better. I know what really killed her. Watson closes his eyes. She took her own life. She chose freedom the only way she could, Holmes reads. But not before giving me this ring and making me promise something. She made me swear that someday, somehow, Drebber and Stangerson would answer for what they'd done, not just to her but to all the other young women they'd destroyed. This changes everything, doesn't it, Detective? Hope wasn't just avenging one woman. He was seeking justice for countless victims. Holmes turns to the final entries, written in different cities across America over the years. Nevada, 1865. Found Drebber in a mining town. He's gotten fat and rich, still preying on vulnerable women. Lost him when he fled east. Chicago, 1870. Stangerson spotted running a gambling house. Both men have abandoned their Mormon faith, but kept their appetites for power and control. They've learned to hide better. New York, 1880. Finally, both men are traveling to Europe together. Some kind of business venture. This is my chance. My heart grows weaker each day, but I have enough strength left for justice. What dedication, detective. 20 years of patient tracking, never giving up, never forgetting his promise to a dead woman. Holmes closes the journal and picks up the letters tied with blue ribbon. These are from Sarah, written during their brief courtship. Listen, my dearest Jefferson, sometimes I dream we could run away together to California, where they say a person can be anything they choose. Wouldn't that be wonderful? To live where love matters more than church doctrine? The dreams they shared, the life they planned, all destroyed by men who twisted religion into an instrument of oppression. There's something else, Holmes says, examining Hope's coat. A train ticket to Liverpool, dated tomorrow. He was planning to return to America after completing his mission. Watson looks puzzled. But why? His revenge was complete. Because, Holmes realizes, he had one more promise to keep. Look at this final entry. When justice is done, I will return Sarah's ring to her grave in Utah. She should rest knowing the truth came out. Even in death, Hope was still serving his lost love. What does this tell you about the power of a promise made to someone we cherish? Holmes stands and walks to the window, looking out at the London street where Hope died. We often speak of justice as blind, detective friend. But this case shows us something different. Sometimes justice has memory. Sometimes it takes decades to catch up. And sometimes it comes in forms we never expect. As the morning light strengthens, you realize this case has taught you something profound about human nature. Love can survive death. Promises can outlast lifetimes. And the line between justice and revenge is often thinner than we'd like to believe. What will you tell Scotland Yard? Watson asks. Holmes considers this carefully. The truth, all of it. Let them decide what to do with a story of love, loss, and 20-year revenge. But I suspect they'll file it away quietly. Some truths are too complex for official reports. But for you, detective friend, this case is complete. You've witnessed how Holmes's scientific methods unveiled not just a killer's identity, but the human story behind the crimes. You've seen justice served outside the law, and learned that sometimes the most dangerous criminals are those who believe themselves righteous. What did this case teach you about detection, about human nature, about the prices we pay for love and the lengths we go for justice? Next episode. We close the case of the study in Scarlet and look ahead to new mysteries that await Holmes and Watson, and you.